Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're totally demystifying workplace communication. We'll be looking really closely at the anatomy of how we interact at work, breaking down the entire circuit of information exchange, and giving you the exact tools you need to build stronger, way more effective professional relationships. You know the feeling, right? You're explaining something perfectly clearly in your own head anyway, but the person staring back at you is completely lost. Or even worse, they do the exact opposite of what you asked. So let's dive into this highly relatable scenario and figure out exactly why these super frustrating short circuits happen in our daily work, and more importantly, how we can actually stop them. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the power of communication, the communication process, when communication breaks down, overcoming the barriers, and then we'll wrap it all up with the 10 commandments of communication. Okay, kicking things off with section 1, the power of communication. Before we diagnose any of these short circuits, we really need to align on what communication actually means. It comes from the Latin word communis, which literally means sharing ideas in common. Think about that for a second. It's inherently a two-way process. It's all about reaching a mutual understanding, not just broadcasting words at somebody. Seriously, if you're just talking at someone and they aren't getting it, you aren't actually communicating.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. Communication is like the blood circulation system of the human body, the absence of which can lead to decay and death of an organization. That perfectly illustrates the stakes here. Communication isn't just some fluffy, nice-to-have soft skill. It's the absolute lifeblood of any group. Without it, whether you're in a retail store or a massive corporate office, the whole operation will ultimately decay and fail.
And here's the so what of it all. Effective communication directly translates to tangible, real-world results. It minimizes friction between managers and employees. It clarifies exactly what needs to be done, which, you guessed it, boosts morale and productivity. Plus, if you're in a service industry like retail, crystal clear communication removes barriers with your customers. That leads to much better service, higher satisfaction, and ultimately a rock-solid foundation of trust that keeps those customers coming back. Moving right along to section 2, the communication process. So, how does an idea actually get from one person's brain into another's? Well, if we break it down step by step, we can clearly see the journey. It starts with a sender who has a positive attitude and an idea. They have to encode it, meaning they translate that idea into a common language or symbol. Imagine someone who's thirsty and making a drinking motion with their hand. That's encoding. Then that message travels through a medium, like a face-to-face chat or a quick email. After that, the receiver has to decode it, translating those symbols back into meaning. And boom, only then has the receiver actually gotten the message. But hold on, because communication is only really successful when the receiver's reaction is exactly what the sender intended. And that is exactly why the feedback loop is our ultimate system check. The feedback loop lets the sender confirm if the message received was actually the message sent. Without it, you're basically just flying blind and guessing. When we look at the mediums we use, the contrast between verbal and nonverbal is huge. We've got verbal communication, so spoken words like a manager announcing a sale, or written stuff like emails. But then we have nonverbal communication, which is just as massive. We're talking body language, sign language, and even space language, like how the physical setup of a room communicates social status. Both of these channels carry incredibly heavy weight in how your message gets decoded. All right, on to section 3, when communication breaks down. Because look, even with a perfect process on paper, things go wrong in the real world. Let's look at the barriers that act like massive clots in our organizational bloodstream. First up, extreme emotions. They completely distort meaning. Consider our source example with Ramesh. He's stressed because he hasn't gotten his salary. He goes to HR, but the HR manager is all emotionally charged up over personal family issues and just shouts at him without listening. In this case, the extreme emotion completely blocked the message from ever getting through. Next, we've got information overload. Picture a customer service rep trying to explain a return policy to someone face-to-face while a landline is ringing off the hook and their manager is calling them on a mobile, literally all at the exact same time. When we let ourselves get overloaded like that, messages are going to be overlooked, ignored, or completely misinterpreted. I mean, the human brain can only decode so much at once, right? And besides emotions and overload, there's a whole list of other internal and external barriers. We have filtering, which is basically when staff only tell the boss what they think the boss wants to hear. Then there's selective perception, where people interpret things through their own stereotypes. Semantic barriers pop up when we use overly complex jargon. But honestly, the absolute worst barrier? Actions not matching words. If a manager strictly forbids sleeping on duty, but then gets caught napping themselves, yeah, that mixed message is going to completely derail any future communication.
Which brings us to Section 4, Overcoming the Barriers.
Now that we've diagnosed the short circuits, let's open up the repair manual. To actively overcome these barriers in the workplace, you've got to understand a really crucial distinction: hearing versus listening. Hearing is just a passive physical thing. Listening, that is an active intellectual process. Take Pratik from our source material as a stellar example. He works in customer service, and he knows that biting his tongue, removing distractions, and truly concentrating on the customer, that act of listening, is the real secret to offering fast, accurate solutions.
And we have to talk about language, because it's usually our biggest barrier. It is almost always better to just drop the fancy jargon. For instance, if a manager knows a staff member, like Suresh, struggles with complex English, they might deliberately switch to Hindi to ensure absolute clarity. The golden rule here: you absolutely must communicate at the educational and language level of the receiver, not just the sender.
So, here are your rapid-fire fixes for daily work. Regulate and condense the flow of your info so you don't overload people. Always ask for feedback. Literally just asking, "Hey, did you follow what I said?" can save you hours of rework. If you're feeling angry or upset, just hit pause and postpone the conversation until you've calmed down. And lastly, pay close attention to nonverbal cues. If someone is nodding yes, but their posture is super defensive or confused, trust me, your message hasn't truly landed.
Finally, Section 5, 10 Commandments of Communication.
Let's wrap up this explainer by locking in everything we've covered with 10 essential rules you can apply immediately to guarantee effective communication. Number 1, systematically clarify your ideas before you even open your mouth. 2, examine your true purpose. What are you actually trying to achieve here? 3, always consider your physical and human environment, basically reading the room. 4, consult others for unbiased input if you're planning a massive message. And 5, be super careful with your overtones and tone of voice. Because retail and business move fast, monitoring your tone and expressions can literally keep you out of legal trouble and build massive trust with your team.
And the final 5. 6, use crisp language, minimal words for maximum impact. 7, always follow up. Especially with newer or less experienced staff, you've got to cross-check to make sure they actually understood the assignment. 8, communicate for today's needs, but don't lose sight of those long-term goals. 9, be a deeply active listener. And 10, exhibit congruence. Basically, make absolutely sure your body language perfectly matches the words coming out of your mouth. So as you head back to your team today, just remember, communication isn't just about what you say, it's about what you do, how you look while doing it, and whether the person across from you truly gets it. Take a beat to clear out the clutter and master these steps. So before your very next interaction, ask yourself this: are your actions actually matching your words? And exactly what will your very next message be?